This is Mr. Hanna and welcome to What the Format. Today we're going to go over adding and subtracting polynomials in this video. I don't like to think of it as add or subtract. That is what we're doing. If you'll notice here I have a plus in between the two polynomials and then a minus. But the issue is because you have multiple terms here, you might be doing, well, most likely we'll be doing multiple of each operation. Okay, so instead of adding or subtracting, I like to think of it as combining like terms. So, well, what's the rule with that, Mr. Hanna? If I have two positive numbers, I'm going to add them and be a positive number. If I have two negative numbers, I'm going to add them and be a negative number. Okay, now if I have a positive or negative, I'm going to subtract. I haven't put what sign it is here because that depends on the bigger number. If I subtract and the bigger number is positive, then my term is going to stay positive. If I subtract and my bigger number is negative, then my term is going to be negative. Okay, that's the rule when you're adding or subtracting, or like I like to think of it as combined like terms. Okay, now you'll notice that not all the powers are represented over here. They don't all have something to match up with. Well, that's not uncommon, and that's also okay. If there's nothing to add it to, you just leave it to itself. It's a little bit like when you're adding numbers and you have a 0 in your numbers. 0 plus 5 is 5. Okay, so like we had 5,207, and we were adding that to 396. Well, the 0 and the 9 are just 9. And we put the 0 as a placeholder. With polynomials, we don't need to put a 0 as a placeholder because we can tell whether the powers there or not because we can look and see it. So like here we have a fourth power, cube power, and a squared, but we don't have the x power, the x to the 1 power. So this x is just going to stay x. We don't need to put the 0 there. Also, please notice that we're going to get into this in a second when we subtract. This subtraction changes all these signs. That's very important to catch that. A lot of students, when they're fine with a plus, but when they get to subtraction, they forget to change a sign, and that would mess up your answer completely. Also, please notice this isn't in standard form. Well, you could put it in standard form before you add, but now you're basically moving things twice. Well, how does that work, Mr. Hanna? Well, I'm going to start with the highest power and just go down. So if there's 9x to the fourth here, well, I'm just going to find the other x to the fourth and then combine them and then write it down. So if I've already moved it here and then I put it in order here, essentially I'm kind of moving it twice. So the other thing is I tend to like to go vertical. When I was in school, all my math problems are vertical, so that's what I've learned to do is just kind of go, I just go vertical. It's very common for me to see that, and then my brain is very comfortable for it. So to show you an example here, I got the 2x to the fourth. Well, I'm just going to line up the fourth terms. Now I have a plus 7x cubed, so I'm going to go plus 7x cubed. Now I have an x squared term, so there's plus x squared. No x term, so I just don't put anything there. And then I bring over the minus 5. And then I just draw a line, and now I can just add like I've been doing my whole life. Vertical, 9 plus 2 is 11, so that's 11x to the fourth. 7 minus 3, so notice here these are both positive, so we added. This is a negative, that's a positive, but 7 is bigger. So I do 7 minus 3, which is 4, and since 7 is bigger, that's going to be 4x cubed. 5 plus 1 is 6. Okay, now notice I'm adding bring down the x. There's nothing to combine it with, just bring it down. Minus 2 minus 5 would be minus 7. Again, I add those and keep the negative. And that is my final answer. And notice it's in standard form. I just moved things over, lined it up. Not too bad. If you know what you're doing and you take it a step at a time. Now, it's okay to go sideways. You don't necessarily need to bring them over and do that. But what I found sometimes when I go sideways, since I'm looking over a bunch of numbers, unless I'm very careful about getting my brain to focus on the right numbers, I will see a plus or a minus from another number. And it's kind of like when you're talking to your friends and you glance over and you see somebody else and then you call your friend by that person's name because that's what you just saw. That was your visual cue. Sometimes your brain miscues that. Same thing with numbers. So doing it this way, make sure that doesn't happen to me, and it's in a format that I'm very used to, and it didn't really take that long, and make sure that it's in standard form. So this is the way I like to do it. If you want to do it a little different way, of course, remember, you start with one way and then you play with it until you find the way that's most comfortable with you. Once you find that, that's what you practice and you stick with. But that's adding. Now, subtracting. What I like to do is I like to distribute the negative first, and I like to do it vertically. Okay, so that's going to become a negative 7x cubed, negative 2x to the fourth, negative x squared, and then finally a plus 5 way over here. Now, this is the one a lot of students miss. The further out it goes, students forget to do that, and all it takes is one to miss. Okay, so now when I bring these over, there's my negative 7x cubed. I've got a minus 2x to the fourth. I've got a minus x squared. Again, no x term, and now I got my plus 5. Now, when you do this, you want to make sure you get all the signs right. Real easy to miss one, mistranscribe the number, so that's going to be negative 7x cubed. Oh, what did I do? See, I was going in order, and how easy is that to get off? Okay, so real quick fix. My fourth power needed to line up there, so that's something you're always going to want to check. Okay, and something else to remember is it's really easy to make mistakes in math, and that's okay if you make a mistake. What you want to do is, as you're learning to think through it, double check yourself. Make sure don't go so fast that you miss when you make a mistake. What will happen if I have a, say a 50 problem test is I'll make 10 mistakes if I'm not careful. But those 10 mistakes, when I'm checking or going through it the right way, I'll catch about 8 of those. So my final test turning in will only have 2 or 3 mistakes instead of 10. I'll catch 7 or 8 of them, and then that's an A. And that's how higher level math works. And when I get my test back, I try to look and say, oh, okay, I forgot to do that again. I'll need to remember it for next time. And then you just keep doing that over and over, and that reinforcement. At some point, even if you make a mistake like this, like you saw, I caught it right away because my brain was like, okay, let's check the powers. And I saw that I misaligned them. So now, here we go, 9 minus 2. 9's bigger, so it's going to be 7x to the fourth. Again, we're going to add those now. They're both negative. So negative 10x cubed, because 7 plus 3 is 10, but it's a negative. 5 minus 1 is plus 4x squared. This just comes down, because like here, x plus 0 is x minus 0 is x. 5 minus 2, see the 5 is bigger, so that's going to be plus 3. And now I've added and subtracted my polynomials. And you could have, technically speaking, 20 terms across here you have to combine. You could have multiple polynomials. I could have added another polynomial here, and then you would have had to line up all the like terms, and sometimes there's more than a pair of them. There could be 3 or even 4 of them. But once you know, you're just adding the coefficients in front of them or subtracting the coefficients depending on the combination of signs. It's really just combining like terms. You just go down one at a time. I like to start with the highest power because that keeps me in standard form. And then when you're done, box your answer, and that is adding and subtracting polynomials. Anyway, hopefully this video helped and you can see the process, and now you can practice and either copy what I did or tweak it a little bit to make it make more sense for you. Anyway, this has been Mr. Hanna. Thank you for watching What the Format. Happy mathing.